When a toddler hits, bites, or steals someone else's toys, we usually don't think he ought to be held responsible, just like an adult. What's the reason for this? The toddler doesn't know any better or doesn't have the impulse control of an adult.
Does it feel good?
Likewise, the legal system recognizes a criminal without this necessary impulse control as not guilty by reason of insanity. It seems that we only blame people for actions that they have actual influence over. And as a person becomes more and more capable, she simultaneously becomes more and more blameworthy whenever she doesn't live up to the higher expectations placed on her. There are people that have shown to be capable of ethical behavior that far exceeds the average person's. Figures like Mother Teresa or the Dalai Lama are held up as exemplars of moral excellence by millions of people. Consequently, it's all the more devastating when you suddenly find out that your role model has done something reprehensible. When the video of the Dalai Lama asking to have his tongue sucked got out, the outrage and disappointment was global.
And suck my tongue.
Apart from this being a generally bizarre and disgusting request, to the people who normally look to the Dalai Lama for guidance, this act must feel like hypocrisy and betrayal wrapped into one. We've already established at the outset that the most competent people are also the most blameworthy for their wrongdoing. So it seems that in the case of the Dalai Lama, ostensibly someone with elite moral capability, he's also the most blameworthy out of everyone for his wrongdoing.
I mean, if the Dalai Lama winds up in a clock tower with a rifle and a few thousand rounds of ammunition and starts killing people at random, you can be sure something has gone very wrong with his brain. Where is the responsibility in this? So I would argue that holding people responsible for their actions makes no sense apart from the effects that doing this will have on them.
Why does Sam Harris argue that someone of moral authority shouldn't be held responsible for his actions? Consider by analogy a pro golfer trying to sink a 5-foot putt. Tiger Woods makes this 999 times out of 100. There's no one more capable of making this. So what does it mean to tell the most competent person that he should have made it if he simply didn't? If I missed that putt, it makes sense to say I should have made it. It makes sense to admonish me, to say keep your shoulders back, come on, follow through. But in what would such an admonishment consist for the most competent golfer in the world? Even to tell him to focus and try harder next time doesn't change the fact that for whatever reason the conditions were such that he couldn't muster the necessary effort this time. The best golfer isn't likely to benefit from any admonishment to be better, because any specific failure says the least about his actual level of competence. It's the least reflective of who he is and who he's been so far. Conversely, me missing the putt is in line with my usual success rate, and therefore very telling of who I am as a golfer. If we bring this observation back to the realm of moral competence, it suddenly seems that the person of highest competence becomes also the least blameworthy, meaning the Dalai Lama would be off the hook. Naturally, this is a conclusion most people aren't comfortable with, and yet it's logically consistent. I think Sam Harris is right about moral responsibility breaking down at the extremes. It's more like an upside-down U-shape, where it only makes sense to assign praise or blame to people that are within the mid-range of moral competence. So I share Sam Harris' view on the matter, although I think it only applies in theory. Because in the real world, whenever a person of high moral standing messes up, we immediately update our view of that person, dragging him back into the ordinary range of moral responsibility.